So, all right, guys, let's enough of these shenanigans.
Yes.
Let's get serious.
Good.
Stranger Things, you guys. All right, so now this is a series where it came from Mark and Ross Duffer. They had been staff writers on Wayward Pines previously and made one feature film before this, and they kind of came out of nowhere in a way and pitched this really amazing. I mentioned it on Collider Nightmares last week, but when I visited the set of Stranger Things earlier this year in Atlanta,
Ooh, good for you.
oh, sounds
That sounds awesome. Go on more.
Drop. So they told me actually that they're huge Stephen King fans, which I think is very obvious when you watch the show. But they had initially pitched the WB for It to do Stephen King's It, and perhaps their take wasn't necessarily going to jive with the studio's take. But I think the main takeaway point from that conversation with them was, look, we want our kids. This is not necessarily a kids show, but it is going to be led by kids. And for a major studio, that was something that was a head scratcher.
Much like the movie Kids.
And now they regret it.
So basically what we got is an 8-episode, they like to call it a novel, really. They call them chapters instead of episodes. First series. And guys, I'd love to hear, your just initial reactions right off the bat, because I think we're all fans here.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, this is teetering along the edge of what I will and won't watch, right? Anything more scary than this, I'm out. But this really had more of a nostalgic feel for me than it had a scary aspect. Were there points when I jumped? Absolutely. When you first saw the monster and the no face thing and whatever the case may be with the monster, definitely very scary. But I thought it was so well done with the youth and the townspeople, and that whole thing really took away from the general fear factor of it all, and brought me into back when I watched E.T. for the first time,
right?
Yes.
Or watched Goonies for the first time, because this really had that feel. And I've said this before on many a show, wherever the case may be. If I had 1.21 gigawatts of electricity and could go back in time, I would go back to be a frat guy in the mid '80s. So I love anything '80s culture, all the wardrobes, what the kids were doing, the music, the cassettes, him talking about having an Atari at the end of the movie. I thought they really hit a lot of those great '80s moments so well in this show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly what I got from it. This is a loving love letter, but it is a love letter to the '80s and all these movies that I grew up with: E.T., Poltergeist, Jaws. These movies I see all over the place, from the little Easter eggs, the posters in the rooms. It's like the Duffers were like, here are the movies that this was inspired by. Here's your Jaws poster in one shot. Here's your E.T. poster in another shot. Here's Evil Dead poster in another shot.
That
and
Evil Dead made a lot of appearances.
Yeah, I could see it all there. I mean, from Poltergeist even. I mean, It did. It brought me back to being a kid, and it reminded me of seeing E.T. in the theater. It reminded me of my dad sneaking me in to see Poltergeist. And the kids just knocked it out of the park. I did a review with Mark for the Schmoes. I kept calling it a movie. Yeah. I kept calling it a movie. I'm like, sorry, I know this is a TV show. I forgot. Yeah. It's that good.
And the Duffers would agree with that. In addition to these chapter episodes, chapter 1, chapter 2, or whatever it is, they have also said that they see this as an 8-hour movie, essentially.
Yeah,
and I think
perfect.
Mission accomplished. All right, Perry, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was kind of processing this like a movie. And I mean, now after I say this, I'm going to think of a show where this statement does apply. But at this very moment, I can't think of a show worthy of a binge watch or tailor-made for a binge watch quite like this. When I think about this, I process it like I process a movie, and I'm not thinking about individual episodes or remember when that happens within the context of that one episode arc. It's just something that so seamlessly flows from one episode to the next. And, because of Celebration and Comic-Con, it felt like I was late to the game, and late to the game right now is, like a week.
Yeah.
And when that happens to me, I tend to be like, I'll like it, but whatever. Yeah. Oh my God, I got home from Comic-Con and one after the next, and I was just so freaking happy. And in the end, my heart was broken when it was taken away from me. But at the same time, I love where it ends so much. It's so pure, and it's really weird to me because I can't think of a single show off the top of my head again right at this very moment where every single character's arc and every single plot works.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many characters in this where
There's
at the
only
beginning,
one that doesn't, and I'll bring it up later. But
okay,
there's only one
I
that
have
doesn't.
a feeling I know where this is going.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a single character right now who. So there were a couple in the beginning where I'm like, oh, they're going to be a throwaway. They're going to disappear within X amount of episodes, and I won't care. And some do disappear eventually.
Yeah.
But even the ones that do disappear in the beginning, they still mean something special to me in the end. They're still well developed, and they mean something for the overall arc of the show. This is just so well done down to the tiniest detail that, like, mind blown.
Yeah.
I will say that this was probably the easiest binge on Netflix I've ever done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Easy. Even though each episode was an hour, didn't feel like that. I'm sitting around on a Saturday and like we're getting ready to go do a couple things, and all of a sudden I was on episode 7. I was like,
Yeah.
this is almost over?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Like this, it was so quick. And I think it was mostly because it never felt like it stopped.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like that, even when because you were constantly on a journey, even though the journey might have just been in the one kid's house at points or in 2 houses or whatever the case may be, it never felt like it stopped because even though they weren't really per se on the run, it felt like they were on the run.
Yeah, there's a constant momentum here. And I think what you're seeing is, and the Duffers have talked about this too, with Netflix, your episodes don't have to be 44 minutes. They don't have to be 28 minutes if you're doing a half hour. They can be as long or as short as they need to be. And I think what you see from that is concise, effective storytelling. I wanted to ask you guys, because the nostalgia thing has come up a lot. A lot of viewers really love it. Some viewers are a little critical of it. And I put it to you guys, do you feel like this show is too nostalgic? Because I would argue that, yes, there is a lot of nostalgia built in. Absolutely. However, this
I
is
like
not.
how you British say nostalgia.
Oh, how do you say it?
Nostalgia.
Oh.
Is Clark British?
It's because
That's the frat boy
I
way
don't
to
know
say
what
it.
Joe's talking about. No,
I'm Cockwolf.
I've just been practicing my non-regional dialect.
Nice.
No, but I think that this is a show that has a lot of head nods, admittedly, but it stands on its own. This is its own story, right?
Yes.
Or do you guys feel differently?
No, you know, it's so funny because I've heard a lot about that, and it's so fun. When I watched this and binged it, I was trying to, I'm like, what am I seeing right now that is pulling out of me? Okay, is it E.T. or is it Stephen King? No, is it Poltergeist? Is it, like, I couldn't quite get it straight in my mind. They nailed it. It is a fine line that they nailed so much with this that I don't see it being overly nostalgia. I feel like they took their influences and then they did their thing.
It's so weird to me that like at midpoint of like episode 2, I was like, if he friggin' puts Reese's Pieces in the forest, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Right?
But like, because it's so close at points to so many movies, but they never cross that line.
Exactly.
Into
There's
being
that
like,
line.
the government shows up and they put them all in a weird, you know what I mean? The government does show up, but they outrun the government. And they're on bikes and like, they're gonna make the bikes fly. And then they flip the van. I mean,
the truck flip was so great.
That was amazing.
That was so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty much the perfect balance for me.
Mm-hmm.
While I was watching it, yeah, I knew what movies they were pulling from, mainly because everybody had written an article about it at one point or the other. But I was never thinking about that really in the moment. And it's pretty much because the story and the mythology and the characters are so strong. But then after the fact, after I was done with it, and I saw on your Facebook post
Yep, I was
that,
gonna
what was it,
mention.
like a 15-minute video?
Yeah.
It was a morning where I was rushing to write Collider News scripts, and you know what? I clicked play, and I couldn't turn it off, and my scripts might have been a little delayed because
You
of that.
bad
but
girl,
I couldn't
Carrie.
stop, and I just appreciated a whole
Yeah.
new level of it because of, and I mean, they're very precise
Yeah,
nods to specific movies where, you know, that level of detail and thought, that pays off when you wrap it into a story that's so well thought out like
Apparently,
this.
the only thing that they messed up, and I have to give credit to Robert Meyer Burnett. He came in, he's like, I loved it. The only thing I didn't like about it were some of the songs and the music came out in like 86 or 87 or 88.
Oh,
And
okay.
the movie took place in 83.
Okay.
Or, I mean, the movie, I just did.
Yeah.
you.
See?
Stranger
See?
Things supposedly took place in November of 83, in the
Okay.
Christmas of 83. So there were some like musical inconsistencies, but I don't know music that well.
Yeah,
And
it
for
didn't
that to
hit me.
be the only complaint,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, my girlfriend's beautiful, but she's got a weird big toe. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like that's the
Your girlfriend does too? you? That's weird.
Weird, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, all right, now we've talked about the things that we loved here, but with any positives, there have to be some negatives as well. Did you guys have anything in particular that didn't quite work for you?
I wonder what it is.
All right.
Do you know what? Because I've talked to you about it, right?
I saw you both do your little performance before.
Oh.
I think I'm very well aware of what it
Winona
is.
aside, Winona took me out of a lot of things.
Sure.
I feel like we should do you want to do it,
No,
Winona?
Oh,
I think
come
we should
on.
do it.
Okay. All right, are you ready?
Oh my God. Are we
I'm
gonna?
gonna lose it.
I'll do the cigarettes.
Okay, here we go.
What? No! You can't! No! She's my son! No! I don't even want to tell him! She's gonna, he's here!
Listen!
He's on the wall!
Listen!
Tell, you can see the lights!
Sorry.
That was very good. It was worth it, right? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. But by the way, that
Andy-
was lovingly because I actually thought she was wonderful and very sincere. But go
yeah.
on.
Maybe I'll have Cody videotape me running like Winona later, and we can put that in somewhere.
Oh yeah, we
But,
put that out
I
there.
love
Yeah.
how that ended with a hop.
Yeah.
No, hop.
That was hilarious.
That
Okay.
hop you did that. That was really
Yeah.
good.
You know, I got a lot of talents. I got a lot of
What is?
So the only thing that took me that I at the end of the movie I kept thinking was like, what was the friend's
End of the
name?
movie.
Barbara?
Did you hear that?
Barb.
Barb.
I kept thinking like end of the movie.
End of the
God
movie.
damn
I
it.
keep going. I
Well,
love
it's
this.
a movie, you
End of the
guys.
show.
It's an
Yeah.
8-hour movie.
Okay, go on.
Barb, you never saw her parents being like,
Yeah.
"Where's my daughter?"
I-
Her parents were just like, "We got it. Let's go to Cabo." And Barb's out. We have
Yeah.
one more kid.
Poor
Yeah.
Barb. Barb
That-
really got the short end of
Even
the
the
stick
friends were
here
like,
in
"Oh,
Hawkins.
hey, by the way, Barb's still gone." They're like,
There was a Sasha posted something on Twitter today that there was like a painting
Yeah,
of like
mural.
Barb. Like where was this? I don't know, but yeah, that's an inconsistency that I keep going back. I'm like, wow, they never. I know we got a resolution that she didn't make it.
Yeah.
and that was a disgusting and very shocking and wonderful moment for the stakes in that thing.
Right.
But when I just want to touch on Winona because she was rubbing me the wrong way the first two, I would say 2, maybe 3, and then I fell in line with her, and I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I mean, even you with the cigarettes and all that kind of stuff, I was like, she's at the end of her rope because her son is somewhere in the wall. I mean, it was amazing. So.
Yes, I want to echo that sentiment just real fast because I feel like, you know, there's always a mom in the 80s movies that's super put together. But then there's
Right.
the mom in the 80s movie that is not put together. The kid who's from the wrong side of the tracks, whose house isn't as nice.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, and maybe you don't maybe see them as much in these classics. I think of like Corey Feldman's character in Stand By Me. His dad is abusive. We know that. Like,
Right.
there's always a kid that's parents are a little better off and then not so much. And so
It's the whole point of the movie, The Breakfast Club.
absolutely,
Right,
yeah,
right.
that's a great point. That's a great point. But I think I just want to be clear because even though I made a silly impression, like
No,
I thought she really.
Silly. It was perfection.
Even though I made a perfect impression, thank you, Josh. No, I think that she really showed up. I thought this was a departure for her, and
Yeah.
I felt those moments where she was with Will. Like those were some of the things that I liked the most. When she sneaks into the fort and says, "I got us Poltergeist tickets," or
Yeah.
you know, like stuff like that. I liked her performance, so I love you, Winona, and I bow down.
Well, yeah.
I feel like we need to do 11 impressions. You ready?
Oh, sure.
Ready?
I'll do the sound effect.
I'm laughing now.
Perry, you are one intimidating
How
elf.
great is Millie Bobby Brown, the girl who plays Elle?
Oh yeah.
She's wonderful.
She's great. Wait, just to defend Winona a little bit. So I've been describing her performances. Yeah, she sticks out like a sore thumb a little bit because everyone else feels very natural and grounded, and her performance is so heightened compared to everybody else. But she's a mom who
Exactly.
just lost her kid.
And
See-
who knows her kid is still alive. This is the thing I
would
love.
drive you crazy.
You know, this is the poltergeist. This is
Yes.
the mom, right?
Yeah.
This is,
Exactly.
This is the mom who goes, I am not giving up. My kid is in the other world. I know I sound crazy, but you have to believe
And it's
me.
like realistically, even though she's so over the top compared to everybody else in the show, in real life, God forbid, like another mom would be like at a 15 compared to Winona's 11. 7.
I just know for a fact that
I give her a pass.
When I cracked my head open in a pool when I was 10, and my brother said my mom like clear her little family on a picnic blanket to get to me.
Totally.
So I can only imagine what my mother would do if I was kidnapped by a wall monster.
Right, that's the thing. And could you imagine, really, I mean, I'm being serious because this is one of my favorite parts of horror. Could you imagine having to explain to somebody, I know I sound insane, but this is actually what happened. I would be a frazzled, crazy lady too.
Well, and to see her evolution of
More
that,
frazzled
he's
crazy.
gone. Like where do they go? She goes to the chief, and it's like, well, where else does he go? And it's like the worst thing that happened here is an owl came and took somebody's hair. You know, to then setting up the phone and like hearing his voice, to then setting up the lights as a communication
So
tool.